Okay, the big note for today is taking trades initially off the 1 minute chart when things seem to be breaking support and resistance is not a bad idea. However, too many times I have noticed the bigger picture is something I need to pay attention to. So also the note in this video is to make sure that I'm not jumping in a whole bunch of trades without at least slowing down long enough to examine the trades that I've entered into. So make sure that I look at the bigger picture before I go into another trade. So if I jump into a trade, it looks good on the 1 minute chart. Before I enter into another trade, I need to go and take a quick peek at the bigger picture. I don't mind jumping in them before I do that because sometimes you got to snap the finger and hit the button. But when I'm into 3 and 4 different trades like that, without looking at the bigger picture, that's a huge problem. Also, I need to know why I'm taking the trade. I need to call it a trade. I need to name it a trade. I need to know it's one of my trades. And if I can't do that, I am not taking the trade. There's been a couple of trades that I just can't figure out why I took that trade. I know I had a reason at the time, but now upon examination, I can't figure out what that reason was. So that tells me I'm getting sloppy and I need to tighten up my reasons for taking trades. All right, having said that, let's take a look at those trades. Okay, today was a loss, and as painful as it was, I stuck to my rules. I kept my stop losses where they needed to be. I took reasonably good trades, and it started off with the first trade, which was a failure of one of my favorite patterns. So that was the tone starting this day. We did keep our maximum stop loss in control, under our maximum stop loss for the day, and that is a good thing. We tried to take one of our favorite patterns. As I've said over and over on here, one of my favorite patterns is when it tries to sell off a couple of times, maybe even 3 times, but then it comes up and consolidates and continues up. Usually it's a 2-try pattern, 2-try to sell, consolidate, and takes off. Usually that's what I'm looking for. And it happened right over here on a smaller time frame. I just want to show myself where this support level was, and you can see the support level right here. And it was right in that support level when I came in today. When I came in today, it was right there. Okay, let's take a look at it closer up, and you can see right here the pattern that I'm talking about. Right here, it comes down and tries to sell here, and then it bounces and comes down and sells again. And in this case, it was 3 times, which I'm okay with, 2 or 3 times. And you can see right here this consolidation area. And what happened was it took off before I got into the trade, and I waited, and I'm pretty glad that I waited for it to come back down and entered in right about here instead of way up here chasing it and all that business. My stop loss was not really under this consolidation area, but I was looking at this big candle here. I thought this was too low. I thought that if it dropped down here under the structure that it would have failed way before that. So you can see right here that it's coming down. It came down to the trend line and it consolidated at the trend line. And that's what was, I knew, I felt, and I knew that it was going to come hit my stop loss, which was right here. I tried to put it where this structure was here, right here. And, deep enough into these pivots here that I knew that, if it was going to bounce, it would have did it like it did right here in that area. But what it did is it consolidated pretty much into those areas at the trend line coming up here, at that trend line, and then it just broke right down and stopped me out right there, and then consolidated and continued down. So even if I had my stop loss down here or had my stop loss here, I would have just had a bigger loss. I like where my stop loss was. I don't think that I could have done anything any different on this trade. Yes, price was below the descending 200 moving average, but a lot of times these 2 sell tries are at the bottom of the area where we already showed it was at support. I do not regret taking this trade. I would probably take it over and over. So unfortunately it did not work, and I had some issues with my emotions, and it could have affected my trading on the other trades. So we will examine the other trades, which were stocks, here now. Alrighty, let's take a look at the Apple trade first. I did try to short it, which made sense at the time, Because I didn't look at the higher time charts and notice that it was bouncing off the 200 moving average. However, it did do something I like to see. Here is the low of yesterday. It came down past, as soon as the bell opened, it came down past it, went right up and tested it, came down close strong. I shorted. I was just looking for 1-to-1. It could have easily done 1-to-1 before returning back up and going over the top. My stop was supposed to be in the correct place. Closing above structure, right back above the low of yesterday. However, I heard the execution of the trade go off. I look and I got stopped out way up here. That's because I forgot to put the trade stop loss in here. Then I go long up here. Why did I go long up here? I think it was because it was breaking out. Truthfully, I should have noticed this W pattern, this to try to sell. And if I got stopped out, it would have made me notice the consolidation range here and another consolidation range here and the potential for that to break out. And that would have been a successful trade, I think, if I could have gotten 1-to-1 out of that easily. But that first trade was okay. I probably would take it again, except keep my stop loss in the right spot. My stop loss should have been shorter and smaller, not double the size. And then I should have noticed this W pattern off of the 200 moving average. Let's take a look at the higher time charts to see what I'm saying. The day chart over here. This last green candle is the day. And you can see this is the 200 moving average. So it came down to the 200 moving average. Not only that, it's on top of these pivots right here. Very, if it's not going to go up forever from here, it's a good place to bounce intraday. And it did bounce intraday. However, when I sold it, I did go look at the higher time charts, and I was noticing this on the 5-minute chart here before it went up. This is what it looked like. It was rolling back down. And on the 15-minute chart, I think it was somewhere in this area right here. Yeah, right here, where it was turning red right here and rolling back off the 8, And here on the 60-minute chart, it was just coming up into the 8 moving average before, it was looking bearish. And I was trying to go long. I should have went long first. After this failed, I think I was taking this trade after it failed. I did not look at the higher time chart to see the 200 moving average bounce. So taking this was just based on the 1-minute chart. Reasonable trade. I would do it again. But getting out at the right time and then reversing the trade when I noticed the W pattern that I liked and to go long, at least 1-to-1 on that should have worked. So that is the Apple trade. Okay, let's go over an embarrassing trading experience with Boeing. I was overnight short. It was a great trade. I closed the position because it had some good news. Maybe the long drop is over and it's time for a bounce where you could always reshort it again. I ended up getting out of adding back a tiny bit to the short, which probably was a mistake. But let's talk about the day trades. After I got out of the position here, I started to go long. And I went long because of the news. It was breaking out over the top of the pre-market and over the top of this area here, 5-minute range. It was going over the top of the 5-minute range. And I got long, and my stop was basically under, down into this structure area and low enough to where it wouldn't whip me out, but it just came down and kept going. And then I shorted, and then I added. I said, okay, it's not going to go up after all. If anything, I probably should have shorted right here and into this support and did a 1-to-1 or 2-to-1 risk reward on it and been happy with that. But it ended up going all the way back up and looks like it was just going to keep on going. So I closed that short. That really just ticks me off. I get long again, and I think, okay, I'm just going to ride it up because it's going to be a short squeeze. Well, this is about the extent of the short squeeze. I added to the position here, and I just realized it's consolidating and it's pushing. I need to go ahead and get back to my original idea. So I switched positions and shorted, and I covered some down here. So this was a win, believe it or not, before it went up, and it would have stopped me out. Maybe it would have stopped me out, or it would have broke me even, and it would have been a zero-sum game on that one. So that was a bunch of just back and forth. I really got to study this. Let's go look at the day chart here. You can see shorting this has been really great. I closed the position today and took the profits. I said, let me just try to day trade it long on a short squeeze bounce and see what happens. And that's why I closed it and started to go long. I would have been real happy with the long. Even if I kept my stop down here under the pivot on that first long and decided to keep my stop down here under the low of the day, not the low of the pre-market, but the low of the day, it did come down and past that. And, that's just bad movement of the market for my ideas, and getting out way up here at the top, trying it again and failing and switching places and staying short is where I'm at right now on it. But I have to be able to figure this out. What am I trying to figure out? I mean, the idea of the short squeeze was a good one. It could have easily squeezed up much, much higher. And I think, when it failed, let's see, repeating the short right here was kind of really quick. And then getting stopped out so high up, I think probably was a bad idea. I probably should have went ahead as soon as it closed over the, right here, closed over the 8 and 20, where they crossed over. Anywhere half of this was avoidable. I didn't have to get that high up before, Then go ahead and trying the long one more time and stopping out under this should have been the case, not adding to it. Because of its behavior, I should have not, assumed that I had it all figured out on this. So yeah, try it one more time long, cut this stop loss in half when I noticed it coming over the 8 and the 20, and going long again one more time for an aggressive, trading style that I have. But stopping out, I ended up instead of adding, I stopped out in a good area and I reversed my position. So adding was a bad idea here, and stopping out so high was a bad idea here. And I probably shouldn't have shorted right here, although I could have probably done some kind of 1-to-1 on it if I was quick with the scalping. And so those are the problems, Next time, if I'm going to switch so many times, I really need to scalp with lower size. That's a good idea. I kept the same size position during all this. So yeah, well, no, right here I was planning on buying lower. So that was what I was trying to do here. I did lower my size here, and when it dropped, I was going to buy more. But by the time it started coming down this far, and I just said, forget it. And even if I did add more and more, I probably still wouldn't even be at break even, and I don't want to trade like that anymore. I was planning on only going to my regular position size, not adding beyond that. So I actually started this trade with less than half of my position size. So if I'm going to add lower and lower, I'm going to start off obviously with a smaller amount and only build up to my regular size. Nothing beyond the regular size for that kind of trading. I had to learn the hard way on that. So that was just messed up. I really am not happy at all with the Boeing trades today. All right, let's take a look at Meta. This box is the first 5-minute range, the high and low. And we have this dash line, which was the pre-market low. So it started breaking down below the first 5 minutes, consolidating. And I saw it consolidating again under the pre-market low with this pintail. And as soon as it started turning red, I jumped in for a momentum trade. Stop loss was here. First target was right here. It hit my first target and was successful. I was out of the trade. I go to start taking other trades, and little did I know, I had a long position, and I went long on it, and I did not mean to. So that was an accidental trade right there. Nevertheless, accidents still count, and they go against your account, and it hurts, unfortunately. So we hit the first target on the short. That was a good trade. I'm very happy about that. If I would have noticed, I just kind of left it alone after that accident. But we did go back up. It didn't quite go all the way up to the stop loss that I had originally. I could have stayed in that trade for maybe a 4 or 5 times return, which is very interesting. Not only that, there was a better short right here after it did some semi go up and test that area. It started to produce a consolidation and a push, which was much bigger. So I missed that bigger move, had an accidental trade on it, but the first target was hit on that momentum trade. I'm very happy about that first part. The rest of it was just pretty sloppy, to be honest with you. Let's take a look at the day chart on that and see what we were looking at on the day charts. Okay, it's a pretty strong bull run here. Daily chart, it was trying to push below. Look how strong this move is. Trying to push below the 8, the hourly chart. Basically, the 8 and the 20 are crossed over. It looks like it might be due for a rotation down. That's a reasonable, guess. But at first hour, it was dropping below the 50 moving average and close to the 100. And right here, right when it was making the second, is it the 15-minute chart? Yep, it was falling below the 200, and it went down plenty of room to make a scalp trade on there before bouncing up. So it didn't look good on any of these because it was already boom, 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 boom. So I took the trade right here on the 5-minute chart, way down here, but it did keep going, and that was the whole point of the trade. It was a momentum trade. Looking for, this is the 2-minute chart, so that's why it looks different. On the minute chart, we could see a consolidation in this area, right? And this was the accidental trade I took right here. Unfortunately, the accidental trade right there. So, okay, so yeah, some mixed signals really, but overall for the scalp to the downside, I'm still happy with that. And probably should have been watching. The 2-minute clearly shows a better opportunity right here for that as it breaks down underneath the 5-minute area and the low of previous day. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. So that's the meta. Let's take a look at the only really good trade I did today, and it kept me from hitting my maximum loss for the day. Fortunately, I stayed in it as long as I possibly could, and it was at the high peak here that we finally sold it, buying it from the very bottom, but only after taking a ridiculous trade at first. Let's talk about the ridiculous trade we took first on this thing. It was just going down so fast. And the only thing I can think of is why I took this was, let's make this bigger, is because it was breaking this trend line right here. And it barely broke the trend line and had gone down so far. And I just reckless. It was going over the 8 and I didn't even wait for the bar to close. Bad trade. I recognized it was a bad trade and I got out, and we got back in it when I saw support. Let me show you the support. It was bouncing off of very good, but this candle really gave it away. I saw this candle and I jumped in it, and then I looked at support. But let's take a look at that support, by the way. Over here, let's see on the well, first of all, I noticed it was bouncing off the close of this gap here from 2 days ago, and it was coming off of testing yesterday's low and yesterday's low of day. Okay, that was really interesting. Here on the 15-minute chart, first the hour chart, you could see it coming down into well, first of all, these pivots here into the gap. 15-minute chart, it comes down into yesterday's low, as you can see by this dashed line here. And this other dash line is the gap of 2 days ago, right? So once it got down that far, I guess that's why I was trying to take the first trade. I just said, this is going to bounce in this area. So let me go ahead and just jump in it. Here is the 5-minute chart. Let's take a look at this one. The 5-minute chart looks really good. You could really see closer now what we're looking at here. It did close the gap, and it turned around on a dime on a pintail. Beautiful. That pintail was what I was really liking. You could see the structure of this after it shaped it on the 1-minute chart. I love that candle. And so I thought that was going to be one of those days where NVIDIA basically just goes back up to the high, and that's what I was hoping for. I was holding as long as I could, and I was just raising my stop loss, and then finally I said, why should I let it come down here and get me on one of these lower pivots? Let me just take it as it spikes up. And I noticed it was hitting some resistance. Now, where was that resistance? Looks like it was in the pre-market. The pre-market low of right here, the pre-market low, and it was coming, it come right up in. I was thinking, maybe it'll come down and stop me out in this area here, I noticed that, it didn't. It made a higher high, and that's where I put my stop, right under there. After it was break even, I went right there. And, I said, okay, well, it didn't stop me out in this area. Maybe it'll go up to this pivot here, which it did right here, this pivot here. And so I think I put my stop underneath here, and I said, okay, if it comes down, it's going to have to come down this far. And eventually it went up here, and I was like, well, where else is this thing? Is it really going to go up to this pivot here? And it never made it that high, but I was looking for it. I noticed this off to the left. I barely saw this. I was like, oh, this could be it. So that is where we exited right there. I'm very happy with this trade. This trade makes me feel a lot better about today. But still, it only saved me from hitting my maximum loss. It did not bring us in positive territory or anything, but still, I like the thinking behind it. I like the patience that I held long, and I got out at the right spot. This was all good stuff. Very happy about that. It makes me feel like I'm not a complete nincompoop for the way I traded Boeing today. So that's NVIDIA. Okay, let's talk about this trade, SPY. I tried to go long on it, and it really, once it started breaking out over the 5-minute, I didn't let it go up and test. First of all, that's one mistake I had. Secondly, it could have been trying to bounce off this 20 moving average. I'll give it that. But in the hourly chart, it was, look at this. I mean, what's it bouncing off of here? And, the trade I was trying to take, was probably right here. I mean, where am I going with it? It just didn't look good on this time chart and the 15-minute time chart, trying to buy up into this stuff. Yes, it finally went up, and I could not have, if I kept my stop at the bottom, I could not have made it a 1-to-1. I think I was bamboozled by the fact that it closed above the 8 moving average right here, and the pattern looked pretty good, but that's it. That's it, because it was like this. It was starting to build up. It's starting to break out, and right here, before that red candle, it looked like that. And that looked pretty interesting to me. I said, maybe it's going to try to close the gap. Maybe it's going to try to close the gap. Here, it could have easily tried to go up here and close the gap. Fighting the forces of all this. Falling below the 200 on the 15-minute, falling below this pivot. And then having to fight its way back up. We've seen things happen like that. It's rare, but it can happen. But it just was a sloppy trade with a low probability. And like I said, if I had put my stop down here under the bottom, I would not have made a 1-to-1 as high as it actually went today. I think my stop loss, considering everything else out, omitting everything else, just based on these trying to sell parts. Eventually it did break that, but consolidating and looking like it wanted to push, I said I'll go for it. It wasn't much, it didn't have much support behind the idea on higher time charts, but I feel like, I'm stopping out at a reasonable spot. The consolidation, it broke the consolidation. I'm not going to go way down here on it. Some people do, and I think sometimes I might do it, but I didn't have any other reason to be in this trade other than this 1-minute pattern here that I was praying that it would go back up to the close of the day. So bad trade all in all, in my opinion, just simply a bad trade for SPY today. Okay, let's talk about the Tesla trade. I'll be honest with you. I have absolutely no idea. This might be the worst trade, even though it was one of the smallest losses. This might be the worst trade because I have no idea why I took this trade, and this is unacceptable. I have a plan, and I need to stick to the plan. What is my plan, and what kind of a trade was I taking here? I take certain trades, and I don't know what this trade is. I don't even know if it was an accident or what, but this is not cool. I think it was the only trade I took on it, thank goodness. Yes, okay. We're swinging this as well, but this was supposed to be a day trade right here. Let's take a look at all the other higher time charts. Let's try to figure out what I was thinking on this. Okay, it's gapping down, it's pushing down, it's in a pintail from yesterday. Yesterday was a nice, kind of a strong day, and it was, this was green at one point, all right? And it's down into this pintail area where there was some strong buying. The hourly chart, shows a that same pintail over here in this box, that it's kind of trapped in that range. So those buyers are dissipating. It's probably going to go down again tomorrow, looks like, into another possible buy zone. But here on the 15-minute chart, first of all, it was in a buy area. Why was I trying to short it? That's what that was. It was me trying to short it. I don't get this, because if anything, this is a good buy area for a good scalp. Even though it might not have gone very far, you got a gap way up there. It's not a short area until it breaks this area, until it breaks below this area, till it breaks below these pivots, right? And you can't short it until it does that. So I don't know why I tried to short it here, because I sold one here and I had to buy it back because it went up. Because that's just how I do it when I'm swinging something. But point is, it's not even one of my trades, okay? And this video better sink into my head if I plan on, doing this full time, because it's time for me to get this dealt with and out of, out of circulation. I should not be making trades that I don't know what trade it is and why I'm doing it. And I noticed on several of these trades today, had I looked at the higher time charts, took a few moments to examine the bigger picture, I may not have taken those trades. And I want that to be sinking into my head as well, because I've been really being quick on the trigger on the 1 minute chart. I set the support and resistance for those areas and draw the lines, and I'm paying attention to the 1 minute chart. And when I see some type of test, retest, breakout based on the 1 minute chart support and resistance areas, I take the trade. That's kind of okay as long as I take the time to go and look. These are different stocks here on the 1 minute charts each. When I take the trade, for instance, if I take the trade on Tesla for whatever reason, I need to quickly go over to the Tesla big picture and take a quicker look at it and go, okay, let me get out of that. That's not a good idea. When I took the trade on Meta today, or Microsoft today, I need to be able to jump over to Meta, take a look at the bigger picture and go, was that a good idea or not? And then I can at least, have some more information about that. Let that sink into my head, and I'm going to try to practice that tomorrow, the rest of this week. If I take a quick trade on the minute chart, I need to instantly go and look at the higher time charts. Also, I may need to limit myself to only 2 trades at a time instead of 4. And trying to juggle 4 trades at the same time. So those are considerations. Lower my positions, my simultaneous positions, and give myself more time to look at the higher time charts. Okay, I'm going to say that one more time. Lower my position sizes, my synchronized simultaneous positions. Keep them lower in number, maybe 2 at the most, and give myself more time to get more information by looking at the higher time charts. All right. Hopefully we'll do that and get better.